In the case of the Baloch, they're an ancient people. They've been on this land for centuries, much before even the advent of Islam. And for the Baloch, the most important thing for them is honor. There was a famous saying during the British time, for this part of their British India, you administer the Punjabi, you bribe the Pathan, you frighten the Sindhi, and you honor the Baloch. And there's a document of 14th of August 1947 in which Jinnah and the Khan of Kalat has signed a standstill agreement and an agreement that Kalat will be independent on 15th of August 1947. Mountbatten didn't sign that agreement. It was then that the British got after Jinnah. That they told him, you cannot allow Kalat to be independent. You must force his accession or get him to accede. So Khan said, I cannot do it. So the army was sent in March 1948. They picked up the Khan, took him to Karachi and forced him to sign the instrument of accession. Now, this has not been accepted by the people of Balochistan till today. In fact, the Chinese have been pressing the Pakistan army that why aren't you acting more severely against the Baloch?
Humbling experience to be here and to be seated next to a luminary like Tilak sir. We have all grown admiring such a personality. And it won't be wrong if I say, if in case we have to learn about Pakistan and the problems, or if I may say the problem known as Pakistan, then there is no better voice in the world other than Tilak sir. I had the honor of meeting sir way back in 2014. I was sharing with him that it was a first roundtable conference that I had to attend in Vivekananda International Foundation. I didn't know who he was because I had heard his name but never seen him in person. So I did the audacity and I asked for his card. Said, may I have your card? I still treasure that card. So today, when I was asked to discuss his creation, if in case I call this as a Bible on Balochistan, it won't be wrong. Because if in case you have to learn about Balochistan, this is the book to refer. And people who discuss various shows are on podcast. If in case they are not reading this book, then they are doing a great disservice to their country and their thought process. So, sir, please allow me to ask a few questions of you.
Please.
And the interesting part is that when we see Balochistan, we all are aware that Balochistan is around 44% of the landmass of Pakistan, 6% of the population, we are all aware. And it borders Afghanistan and Iran, Sistan province of Iran. I hope we all are in sync when we're discussing this. So, sir, people see Balochistan as an economic issue, as a security issue, as a cultural issue. Why would you name your book, Pakistan, the Balochistan Conundrum?
Thank you, Mayank, and pleasure to be here and speaking to all of you. Very simple reason. Because actually, Balochistan is an extremely complex problem. People have tried to reduce it to simplicity, economic development nahi hai, or human rights violations hai. It's a mixture of all this and then much more. Therefore, and that's the reason perhaps that the Pakistan army, which, thinks in a straight line, is not able to understand what Balochistan is or what the problem of Balochistan is and how do you tackle it. So that's why I really like this term, the conundrum, that it is a conundrum. And at the heart of the conundrum is the issue of identity. You see, in post-colonial South Asia and other parts of the world too, the issue of identity is critical. Simply because the colonial powers came and they brushed aside old borders and lands and mixed people together, not realizing how they had trampled over identity. In the case of the Baloch, they're an ancient people. They've been on this land for centuries, much before even the advent of Islam. So for them to be trampled and to be treated as a marginal minority is something which is not acceptable to them. They feel that they not only has their identity been trampled, they're not given their due recognition as a people. And for the Baloch, the most important thing for them is honor. There was a famous saying during the British time, for this part of their British India, you administer the Punjabi, you bribe the Pathan, you frighten the Sindhi, and you honor the Baloch. So for them, honor is that important. for them. So that's why it is this complex web of issues in Balochistan, which the word conundrum really fits like a tea. Yeah.
It's a melting pot of problems, if I can say that.
Cauldron. I've used the word in my book. Cauldron of problems.
Sir, to understand any problem, we should have a look at its history. And if we try and study the history of Balochistan, the gentleman here, he made a mention of accession of Kalat. I would very politely disagree with that word. Kalat was never accessed. It never accessed to Pakistan. Sir, I would like to request you to just walk us through as to what exactly happened at that point of time in 1948.
Yeah. So I think we should start a century before that. Balochistan was unfortunate in that when the British wanted to change the Amir of Afghanistan, they decided to send an army. So there was a tripartite alliance between Ranjit Singh, the British, and Shah Shuja, the Afghan. And Maharaja Ranjit Singh was much too smart for the British. The British thought that they would get this coalition together, use the forces of Maharaja Ranjit Singh, go through Punjab, through the Khyber Pass, and go into Afghanistan. Maharaja Ranjit Singh flatly said, "You're not marching through my territory. I will not allow access to this. I'm part of this coalition, but this army is not marching through my territory." So the army had to go south via Sindh, cut across Balochistan into the Bolan Pass, Kandahar, Ghazni, and then Kabul. So since they had to march through Kalat, they needed to have a treaty or an alliance. So the Khan said, "Okay, I'll allow you to march through my territory, but certain conditions." In Balochistan, the Khan is one center of power, but there are these other Nawabs, heads of different tribes. So when they saw the British, and it was a 30,000 army, massive baggage train. That was much too tempting for anybody, So they attacked this. So the British got very upset. So on their return, they came and attacked Kalat and got into treaty relations with Kalat from 1835. Then finally there was another treaty in 1876 in which Kalats continued to be independent for all forms and purposes, but they had a British resident and accepted subsidies from the British. So that continued up to 1947. Then in 1947, when the term came for the British to leave the subcontinent, Kalat said, "I want my independence. I was independent before you came." They agreed. Jinnah agreed. And there's a document of 14th of August 1947 in which Jinnah and the Khan of Kalat has signed a standstill agreement and an agreement that Kalat will be independent on 15th of August 1947. Mountbatten didn't sign that agreement, and there was a story why he didn't sign. So Khan declared independence, I think on the 11th of August or something, effective from 15th of August. He set up his own constitution. There were 2 houses of parliament. It was then that the British got after Jinnah. And there is correspondence that they told him, "You cannot allow Kalat to be independent. You must force his accession or get him to accede." Jinnah had been the lawyer of Khan of Kalat and had argued the case for Kalat's independence before the cabinet mission. And Khan had given him vast sums of money. But then on British pressure, on British telling him that, he asked the Khan to accede. Khan put it to the 2 houses of parliament. And both said nothing of the sort. We can have friendly relations with Pakistan. There's no way we can accede. So Khan said, "I cannot do it." So the army was sent in March 1948. They picked up the Khan, took him to Karachi and forced him to sign the instrument of accession. Now, this has not been accepted by the people of Balochistan till today. And the historical memory of how their independence was snuffed out is one of the main factors for the insurgency even today. So that's why it's such an important... and Pakistan tries to brush it. There's lots of other things, but Pakistan tries to brush it under the carpet. They don't know. He acceded. Khan had not acceded willingly because he had delegated the power to do so to the 2 houses of parliament. Those houses of parliament had declined. In fact, there was a very famous speech of Ghausbaks Bizinjo, which is really a document for all freedom fighters. It's available on the net. If you're interested, you should read it. Ghausbaks Bizinjo is saying that if you're forced to accede, then every son of Balochistan will get up and fight for his motherland. And which is what has happened prophetically, very prophetic.
So when Sir made a mention of the ethnic groups of Balochistan, I just flipped over, and the most authentic account of the ethnicity in Balochistan is on page number 33 of his book. I would strongly recommend that you should go and read this book. So coming to the next thing, you made a mention of Pakistan, and Pakistan really intrigues everybody. It is a thought. I don't consider it to be a country. So everything in Pakistan is centralized. And your book also makes a mention giving reference to 1971. So what is this thought process of centralization, and why do you think that the lesson of federal accommodation still hasn't been internalized by the Pakistanis?
Actually, this is a legacy of the Pakistan movement. During the Pakistan movement and in the run-up to the creation of Pakistan, Jinnah was faced with a dilemma. There were the Muslim minority provinces in India, and there were the Muslim majority provinces in the northwest and in the east. Now, how does he marry the two? The Muslim majority provinces wanted provincial autonomy, whereas the minority provinces in India, they wanted control, centralized control, that their interests could be looked after. So he said, his 4 points talked about provincial autonomy. But as soon as Pakistan was created, he bid goodbye to provincial autonomy and created a centralized state. Not only that, they used two other instruments, Islam and language. And Jinnah's whole thesis was that Islam provides the basis of nationhood, which was actually incorrect. Maulana Azad, his differences with Maulana Azad was precisely this. Maulana Azad in an interview said, nowhere in the Quran or in Islam does it say piece of land consisting of Muslims can become a territory. He said anybody living in that piece of land is part and parcel of that country. And he said especially in the subcontinental Muslims are loyal to their own sect. They are not loyal to this entity called Islam. They're loyal to their own sect. So cannot have a nation. But in any case, so this was one thing they used. And second was language. Urdu became the language. And you will find that for example, in East Pakistan, for the Bengalis, language was a much more important part of their identity than Islam. Similarly, for the Baloch and for the Pashtuns, their ethnic identity has always been more important than either Islam or language. So they don't want centralization either. But the example of Bangladesh gave to the Pakistan army was that if you allow provincial autonomy in the future, anywhere else, they will break away. Not realizing that provincial autonomy can actually be a strength for the federation rather than being a weakness. But you see, as I said, the army, the saying goes, if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Exactly.
With due apologies to you. So for a Fauji, it is no provincial autonomy, none of this nonsense. There has to be centralized control. You recall a few years ago, the PPP government set up the 18th Amendment, which delegated powers to the provinces. There's a National Finance Commission, which increased the provincial share. Now the army is trying to backtrack.
27th Amendment, sir.
Now in the 28th Amendment, they are going to withdraw whatever has been given in the 28th Amendment and in the National Finance Commission. So Pakistan, right from its inception, has had this in the mindset that you have to have centralized control, one man. You see, even Jinnah, for all his so-called democratic credentials, he was President of the Constituent Assembly, he was Governor General, he was also a minister in the cabinet of Liaquat Ali. So all power he concentrated with himself. And every general thereafter, the general doesn't want what better for a general. Unity of command, as Musharraf used to say. And this is what Asif Munir says, unity of command and under him. Hard state, under him, nobody else has any rights. So in today's day and age, this kind of a structure cannot survive. It will break.
And plus, what they do exactly in Balochistan, you have very rightly coined that term, forced disappearances. I believe it has emanated from your book, and now Maharang Baloch has caught on to it, and she then walked to Islamabad with that. Do you really feel that in this day and age, if in case you have to crush insurgency or separatism, this can be a tool with the hand of the government?
No. To some extent, if there is a law and order problem or there is some criminal activity going on, you use the force of the state. But to deal with the people in this day and age, the age of internet, available information, people are communicating all over the world, to think that you can crush people by picking them up in forced disappearance. You see, where does this come from? This attitude comes from this Thanedari culture, especially which is prevalent in Punjab. You see, in Punjab, what happens, I'm a Punjabi, just by the way. What happens in Punjab is that everybody knows कि village में किसने murder किया है या किसने, who's done a crime. So what the police does, they don't look for this, and this guy runs away. They pick up his parents. उसको थाने में बंद कर देते हैं. 2 दिन, 3 दिन, 4 दिन. And a message is sent to this guy. Your parents are rotting in jail. Now it's up to you. So then he will come and surrender. The parents are released. And he is tried. In Balochistan, they've gone a step ahead. They're not worried about the criminals. They can't catch the criminals. The people who are out in the hills. So they catch young people before they take to this kind of an activity. And that is what the enforced disappearance really is. And now, tragic, there's a term which has come up in Balochistan called half-widow. And half-widow, let's say, is a lady who doesn't know if she's a widow or she's married. Her husband has been missing for 15 years. Can you imagine the plight? So, Eid hai, shall we celebrate it or not celebrate it? And then, these people who have been disappeared, they don't even have a grave. They say, at least laash to hame de do. We can go to the grave once a year or whenever it is and go and pray on the grave. There's no grave. So you have these half-widows. This kind of brutality which is being done, there is no way they can control the situation. It has now become self-perpetuating because people feel there is no alternative now. Women are now joining it. We've had 4 or 5 suicide bombers. Women with children. Can you imagine for a woman, a mother, the most precious thing is her children. And then she goes and blows herself up. So it's it has now become a stage where I don't think so Pakistan gets it still. They think they can still dande say, they can continue to deal with it. But they can't. It's a total failure. And Mayank Baloch, you mentioned, what a gutsy lady. She's really a hero here. And if you hear her speak, the clarity in her voice, the depth in her voice, and the pain with which she speaks, will make any normal person shudder. Okay, what are we doing?
If in case you name Balochistan, I think you cannot miss the name General Tika Khan, the butcher of Bangladesh. I remember that this guy was responsible for killing of at least 3 million Bangladeshis. And then when his thirst for blood could not be satiated, he was posted to Balochistan. And then he went on a killing spree. And there's a small bit of history with Tika Khan. Tika Khan's father is the same gentleman. He was working with the Punjab police. In case you have heard of the place Husainiwala, Firozpur, Bhagat Singh, Rajguru, Sukhdev. Sir, Tika Khan's father was responsible to, Hindi mein bolte hain, ठिकाने लगाना, the bodies of these 3 freedom fighters. And uske evaz mein, he was gifted a piece of land by the Britishers. So, if you have a father like this, you are definitely going to have a offspring like Tika Khan. What else can you expect from that?
And also, I think in the case of Tika Khan, Bhutto had given him a free hand.
Exactly.
Because Bhutto hated the Baloch Sardars. He had this ego issue with them.
Bengals.
Yeah. So, when he gave him a free hand, he do what you have to do.
Sir, there is one more issue, and here comes a new player, and the player is China. So the Pakistanis thought that if in case we side by the Chinese and we get around $66 billion worth of CPEC, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, which runs through Balochistan. And do you really feel that this CPEC has done some good to the people of Balochistan, or it has alienated them further?
No, I think that alienated them further. You see, you look at the project. It was built initially at 40, then the Chinese said we'll make it 62. Till date, I think between not more than 22 or 24 billion has actually been invested. Because after it started, within about 3 or 4 years, the Chinese realized that this is throwing money down the black hole. Pakistan can't deliver on this. So they've stopped funding. In fact, so much so today that the main project in CPEC was this main line 1, railway line, double gauge main line, from Peshawar to Karachi. The Chinese have pulled out. And Pakistan has now gone to the EDB to fund it. So for the first time, a core CPEC project is going to be funded by an outside agency. But coming back to you see, in any project, the beneficiaries of that project have to be the people in that area, at least to a large extent. They have to be involved in planning. What is it that you want that this project we are doing? And the benefits and the share of that must come to the people of Balochistan. Here what is happening is that the projects have been conceived, Gwadar and this CPEC has been conceived, no consultation with the Baloch at any time. It's been all at the federal level. The benefits of Gwadar port, the fees from Gwadar port will come be shared with the Chinese and the federal government. The Baloch get nothing out of it. Then the Baloch are worried that they will become a minority. Because, the population size is very small. The way initially it was planned that how many 500,000 Chinese will come, Punjabis will come, Pathans will come. So the Baloch feared that soon, 5-10 years down the road, even the chief minister will not be a Baloch. It will be somebody from outside. They'll get totally marginalized. So what benefit is it going to give to them? They wanted, they'd given a proposal that at least pass a legislation that no non-Baloch can be elected to the provincial assembly. That also they refused. So for the Baloch, this is the project threatens them. And then, in Gwadar, they are the poor fishermen, fishing in small boats.
Sir.
Now, they've been asked to clear out from that East Bay, and Chinese have been come there to give
trawlers.
And then the Chinese have got trawlers that do deep sea, and they, cut the corals. So for the future generation, there is no fish available. So the Baloch have lost their livelihood too. So in every which way,
they are at a loss.
They are at a loss, and therefore they are opposed to. Therefore, the militants, freedom fighters actually, target CPEC projects, Chinese and CPEC projects, because they feel they're exploiting our resources.
Exactly. Now the Americans are stepping in, sir.
You see, Americans should read some history. A very interesting incident. When Henry Kissinger came for the first time to Pakistan, this was way back in the 60s, he was a Harvard professor. And that time the 62 insurgency had just started. So somebody asked him, what do you have to say about that Baloch insurgency? He said, I won't recognize the Baloch insurgency even if it hit me in the face. And that was a remark much talked about and controversial. So I've mentioned it in my book.
Yes.
Henry Kissinger came on a visit to India and he wanted to come and talk to the National Security Advisory Board. I was there. So I presented him a copy of my book and I told him, you recall, you have mentioned this. He said the State Department was so upset with me, I almost lost my scholarship and my professorship. He said, you should never have made that statement. But this is the lack of knowledge. When a man like Henry Kissinger says, I don't know what the problem is. So you can imagine. And, the Pakis have sold them this bunkum that we've got, rare earth elements and given them a box of rocks. I mean, I feel embarrassed. Shouldn't the Americans be feeling embarrassed? Ki kya patthar hame bechte? And not only that, then they've offered them the port of Pasni that you take out from Balochistan, especially from Retd, and you take it to Pasni and then you ship it to the US. So far they haven't done that, but there's a 500 million, I think. The CPEC is not going to do anything for the Baloch. The Chinese also realize. In fact, the Chinese have been pressing the Pakistan army that why aren't you acting more severely against the Baloch? So this crackdown against the Baloch, severity of it, is also to please the Chinese. There is a lot of easy, but again, Pakistan says we've got $6 trillion worth of
natural elements there.
Yeah.
Resources.
Where does this figure come from? No study, nothing. The US Geological Survey has carried out a survey and said there's no question. It's just not there. Retd, when they said the big mine, discovered in 1993. We are today in 2026. Nothing has come out of that. I'm not denying that there could be, but it's over 30 years. Something should have come. You should have made some roads, some equipment, some manufacturing, some extraction. Nothing of the sort. So Pakistan are brilliant in fooling the Americans. Not once, they've done it 3 times in the past. And the Americans just get taken over.
When we speak of natural resources and Balochistan, there is one place which comes to my mind, that is Sui. Sui gas was discovered in 1952. It took 32 years for that gas to come to Balochistan. So that is Pakistan for us.
No, that's a very,
Sir.
very sore point among the Baloch. You see, as you said in 52,
Sir.
Quetta, the capital of Balochistan, got gas only in the 1980s. Sui town itself got piped gas only in 1990, by which time the whole of Pakistan had got gas.
That gas.
Then the royalty for the gas, much lower in the case of the wells in Balochistan, much higher in the case of the wells of Sindh, and about 2 times the price in the wells of Punjab.
Punjab.
So they lost out the rate development and the royalty. So again, the Baloch point to this and say, ki,
Sir, a hypothetical question, sir. If in case you are appointed as advisor to the Prime Minister of Pakistan, sir, and he says, Mr. Tilak, please tell me how can I solve this Balochistan problem, sir? What advice can you give, sir?
only one advice, Chhod do. Make it independent. There's nothing that you can do about it. Absolutely nothing that you can do about it. Pull out your infrastructure, pull out your administrative infrastructure, pull out everything and give them, let them. You see, as it is, if you look at history, Balochistan was never a part of the Indian subcontinent. It was more a part of the Iranian plateau, geographically also and politically also. It was due to the compulsions of the Great King that the British went and absorbed Kalat into Indian system. Otherwise, Balochistan, in fact, this document which was given to the cabinet mission, which Jinnah argued on behalf of Kalat, makes this point, that Kalat has never been a part of India. I would tell them, kiya, isko chodo. Let them,
Fend for themselves.
yeah, they'll be happier. And then you will be able to establish friendly relations with them. This is what Birenjo had mentioned, that we will set up treaty relations with you. We can have good relations, as you say, Muslims and that. Though for the Baloch, this Islam means nothing.
Nothing. Yes.
A very interesting incident. So during Ramzan, a Baloch was not praying. He was not fasting. So he was asked, why aren't you keeping a fast? रोजा क्यों नहीं रखे? रमजान चल रहा है. कहता है, मेरा सरदार रख रहा है ना, मुझे रखने की जरूरत नहीं है. So there's nowhere in Islam that somebody else can keep a roza for
Exactly.
you. For the Baloch, this is acceptable.
I remember such an incident, sir. Hinglaj Mata Mandir. So there was a priest who used to come from Sindh to pray. And the local Baloch population, they were very, very angry. That why should a Sindhi come and pray? They said, Hinglaj Mata jo hai, wo hamari hai. So we should be the priests and we should be offering prayer. That is the innocence that they nurture. So coming to these ethnic divides and these issues, sir, in the entire subcontinent, we see that be the case of Afghanistan, be the case of Pakistan, these regions, they lay stress more on the ethnic identity rather than the idea of nation states. Do you consider these to be fault lines existing in this area? Or are they such factors which unify a nation state if they respect these diversities?
Yeah. If they did accept these diversities, then these ethnicities would not be in salience, would not come into salience. But the fact that they are not accepted, so each person is. There's a very famous incident when all these leaders were in Hyderabad jail. There was a Hyderabad conspiracy in 1977 or 78. So Zia went to see them. And he said, why are you talking about Baloch, Pashtun? We are all Muslims. And we should live together as Muslims. So one of them, I forget now who it was, must be Gausbach only. He was the intellectual. He said, we are Baloch and we are Pashtuns. And it is only on that basis that we can make a strong Pakistan. If you don't accept this, we've been sitting on this land for centuries. Pakistan to 47 mein bana hai. Afghanistan came into existence in 1747, 200 years before the creation of Pakistan. So if you don't accept that ethnicity, that identity, of Ali Khan's famous statement, that I've been a Pashtun for 5,000 years, a Muslim for 1400, and a Pakistani only for 40. So for him, what is the most important part of his identity? It is being a Pashtun, not being a Pakistani, not even being a Muslim. So India accepted unity in diversity. You see, in India, we have a far more complex set of languages, ethnicity, religions, yet we are one. In the case of Pakistan, चार ही तो हैं यार. There are just four: Sindhi, Baloch, Pashtun, and Punjabi. Saraikis, you can take another one. But because of the centralization, what we talked about earlier, not recognizing ethnicity, not giving them their due value, not recognizing them, will continue to have problems. And now, different, for example, the Saraikis, as I mentioned, they demand their own state. They want to bifurcate Punjab.
Punjab, yes.
And South Punjab, which is Saraiki speaking, which has a history, a very old history, their own independent language. At one time, in Multan, which was under the Saraiki belt, there was the only temple in the subcontinent to Bhakt Prahlad. Only Mandir of Prahlad is in Multan, and which was revered by the Saraiki kings, the Ibrahim dynasty. I think it was the Ibrahim dynasty. So they are now also come to the fore because, for example, Punjabis, we say 5 rivers. For the Saraikis, it is 6 rivers. Because Ghaggar is also part of their sensibility.
Exactly.
So you have to recognize these various things, especially in today's day and age.
So I have got the answer to the concluding question that to maintain these nation states in the present state, one has to accept the ethnicity, the divisions, I won't say divisions, but the varied ethnicities which are existing on this piece of land, and that becomes a unifying factor. And for that, I remember in the armed forces, we have various regiments on ethnicities. We have the Maha regiment, Sikh, Dogra, Madras. And people often contest that, why should you have this division? Why can't you have our number 1 battalion, 2 battalion? But this is how we function. And if in case we respect our diversity, we can remain united. Thank you so much for the lovely discussion the enlightening talk, sir.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure talking to you and very good questions.
Sir, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Question. It's an Indraprastha cultural festival. I'll tell you what I've seen. The heart of the Indic civilization. From Shikarpur, Jacobabad, Sibi, Quetta, Hinglaj. I've been to all those places, right? And I'm amazed what lives there right now. Is a community where in this small region, you'll find Arya Samaj, you will find Valmiki, you will find the Udasin tradition, you will find Nanak Panthis, you will find Shaivite temples, you will find Gurdwaras. And he said, this is the Indic civilization living here.
Yeah. They have something known as, I think, Nani Ka Hajj also.
Nani Ka Hajj is in Hinglaj Mandir.
Hinglaj Mandir.
Yeah, if you go to the website called thegurunanak.com and see episode number 20, and in that towards the end we are showing that Sindhi person who's praying there. So the Pandit, he's no more. He's there. But उस पहाड़ी पे आप ऊपर चढ़ेंगे, so one local guy took us, local Hindu guy, and he took us there. एक साथ में बाबा गोरखनाथ की memorial और 10 कदम दूर पे बाबा गुरु नानक की. So that's what exists in Balochistan as Indic civilization, which people don't know and don't talk.
I would love to take your mobile number.
That's the diversity. In fact, there were no riots in 1947 in Balochistan. And before he died, there was a large colony of Hindus behind Akbar Bukhti's house. Yeah. They were staying there. He protected them.
I'm talking about 2014 when I did my first book. After Akbar Bukhti's massacre, and the entire population was all I hate to say this Hindu, I call it Nanak Panthi culture because it's a mixture. It's like Nanak, Vaishnavite, this, everything's mixed. The whole population of these, what do you call them as the Valmiki tradition. They were dispersed and they all came to Nankana Sahib because that's the only place they got the refuge. And so a lot of them were living there. I met a lot of them. So.
And in the Khan of Kalat, traditionally, the finance minister was always a Hindu.
Yeah, that's right.
And I forget his name.
Tarachand Baloch.
No, but this is
Way
Even in
back.
1830s.
Okay.
He died fighting against the British, along with the Khan when they used cannons and brought on the Khan of Kalat's court. The finance minister was a Hindu who was fighting there.
Yeah.
So the Baloch they are a very secular people. They're conservative, socially conservative, but they are a very secular people. And anybody and everybody, so long as you respect, they have something called Baloch Mayar. You know, like your Pashtun Wali among the Pashtuns, you have Baloch Mayar here, which is their social mores, social codes. You follow that.
So, like, does Indian agencies see it as a weak spot for Pakistan, and does that indicate that we, possibly trigger this instability for Pakistan, which would create problems? Is it possible, matlab, Balochistan?
You see for yourself the kind of difficulties and problems they are having in Balochistan and in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. Obviously, it's a weak spot for them.
So,
They have deployed so many forces over there, and now with this Iran thing hotting up, they're extremely worried that if they have to go into Iran on the prompting of the US, it'll be a field day for the Baloch.
so does that thing, is it like favorable for us ki matlab, we create problems for Pakistan triggering that, and in favor, like,
As
politics-wise and
I
all?
said in a reply to his question, Pakistan ही खुद सक्षम है. We don't have to do anything. And of course, we will never do anything. We are a democratic country. We will never do this kind of a thing.
We don't meddle into any internal matters of any country.
Yeah.
Okay, so you think, especially Pakistan. But then, yes, we can always offer them moral support. Like Sir said, on social media, you can always support the cause. What you can do is, since you are an educated person, you can just bring out what is given in this book, and then help your friends to amplify that, so that the word reaches all over.
You see, 10,000 tweets starting with every day on Baloch and Balochistan, the issues of Balochistan. Increase it to 20,000 over a period of 3 or 4 months. Can you imagine the impact that will have?
Thank you. I think in sense
you.
of time we would have to. I'm really sorry. This becomes exciting because one thing I understood that people who are robbed of their history, their resources and their honor, they hit back very hard. And as Bharatiya ethos and essence goes, we always help people. That is the intent here of this conversation. And this was truly a masterclass. In this digital age, there is too much of noise, and cutting clear through that noise, making us understand in this, what I understand as a black mirror, the thing which we carry. These conversations help. Thank you, both of our esteemed speakers.